We're going to give it a shot here. Bobby Manning and John Zanis here. Both of us went to Celtics practice, Celtics and Warriors
Yeah,
practice today at TD Garden. Yeah.
John on
Uh,
the ground.
on the ground. I just ended up talking to all my old peeps there. I don't know if I actually worked at all, but Bobby was grinding. I was just kind of taking it in. And was Josue there as well?
Josue, yeah, he got that Draymond Green quote responding to Cedric Maxwell.
Bingo. So we'll get into that because that's a lot of headlines.
Draymond
And
was
it's
in rare form today. He always is, right?
we'll get into Draymond. Let's start with the Celtics a little bit and just kind of observations today from what you saw, and what you heard. You talked to the people, and again, we're 1-1. We're heading in here. Each team has things to feel good about itself. Each team has things to feel bad about themselves. Naturally, the Warriors, having won in resounding fashion in Game 2, might think they've solved the Celtics puzzle, but we've seen throughout this postseason it's one-on, one-off with these guys, and it kind of has been the whole way through. And so there's no reason to expect as bad a performance as we got from the Celtics in Game 1, in Game 2. But again, we don't know. It's a different opponent. We're not quite sure how this is going to go. So just your thoughts here, talking to the Celtics, their general vibe. We'll go through some news and notes. We'll bring in we'll definitely talk about the Draymond stuff because that was fun, but we'll hold that till a little bit later. But let's just kind of start with like a Celtics report. What do we have going on?
Yeah, it definitely feels like lineup rotation changes are in the works here. Ime telling me that they're going through everything, assessing everything. Said that the goal of the first two games was to shave down Al's minutes after a long two series and keep Rob's minutes low. So I think you kind of know where that's going. I don't think we'll see much Daniel Tice the rest of the way in this series, in favor of probably some lineups that feature Grant Williams at the center spot, which we haven't seen much this year, but could work in this series for minor stretches. And then I like three guard lineups in this series. I thought it took Ime a little too long to get there in Game 2 in that third quarter before things really just went off the rails there. Rob exited about 4 minutes into that quarter. You didn't see him again the rest of the way. And then later in the quarter, they finally got Tice off the court, but it was too late at that point. I believe they had Pritchard, Tice out there for that run that was just devastating there late in the third. And that unit comes out of that game with a 178 defensive rating. So I don't see what the upshot is. I'm on your team now, John, on the Tice thing. I don't see what the upshot is to playing him here, even bridging the Al and Rob minutes. You can just go small in this
You
series,
just go
can't you?
small. It's better to go small. You against a team like Golden State, you gain literally nothing by having Tice out there. I can understand in some circumstances when other teams play multiple bigs and you just can't go small because you'll get eaten up. But the reality is he's not doing great on the boards. He's really not great defensively. People are jumping up and over him. He's really not able to contest at the rim at all. And he's just horrible in the pick and roll, defense right now. And against a team like the Warriors, just dropping off of shooters is just terrible. So it's just nothing about Tice's game works here. If he was knocking down threes at a 37% clip and you had somebody who could stretch things a little bit, or, when they had him last year, a couple of years ago, he was a little bit of a roll threat. He could get up and he could throw it down. Definitely seemed a little bit more springy. Just this version of Tice is just, again, we don't need to kick a guy when he's down, but this is a particularly tough matchup. And you're right. I don't care who's out there for Golden State. I'd rather substitute any Celtic in there for Tice right now, and that includes Nesmith. I just don't see the point.
Yeah, and I understand the thinking. You want to assert your style on the game and have it
Yeah.
lean in that direction. And I think Ime's probably a little scared of allowing the Warriors to jump into their small lineup, which can be devastating offensively. And we haven't seen a lot of it just because of how tough Poole has had a time matching up with the Celtics and Clay's minute crunch here. And the Warriors are kind of in a flux too right now. I'd say even more so than the Celtics. They're searching. They're trying a bunch of different stuff. Bielitsa, Peyton. They've been all over the place rotation-wise, but it did feel like they found something with Otto Porter, Peyton, and the starters with Green at center. So they've hit their mark. The Celtics got to find theirs. It's a bit of a tit for tat right now, and it feels like it's going to be that way the whole way because these teams stylistically pretty different. So any given game, it's like who can assert their will on a game, and that's why I keep going back to Rob, who apparently came out of game two okay after that blow to the legs from Smart. Ime said he was more scared than anything, and Ime keeps pushing along this line that it's just sort of a mental thing for Rob. He's got to get through it. Not much physical that's ailing him. It's more him trying to play through pain.
And this is, I was here and I was kind of keeping an eye on Williams. This is him at practice. He did nothing. This is what he did the whole practice. He just sat there. He didn't shoot. Actually, he had the 2 free throws right at the end there, but that's about it. But almost no basketball related activity. He just kind of hung around. And did a lot of stretching and stuff like that off to the side. And that was it. So I don't know if that was par for the course in Golden State too, that he's really kind of staying out of it. Again, the 30 minutes of practice they let the media in on is really goof off time at that point.
Yeah.
It's guys going around the horn here, firing up threes. Jason Tatum didn't pick up a basketball either for the entire time he was out there. He was just talking to people at midcourt. So it's pretty much the end of practice. So we're not going to glean much from that, but clearly Rob is in a rest and rehab sort of frame of mind. But it is interesting. You made the point that you made. You really think Ime thinks he's milking the injury based off of his comments today?
No, not milking it, but it's not something that should hold him out. It's not something that should restrict him from playing well, I think.
So they think Ime thinks he should be playing better?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's pain tolerance, and something that Ime's talked about it again and again with him is playing through pain. It's swelling. I'm sure it's stuff other guys are going through, and again, it's a bone bruise, so I think it's more severe than just aches and pains others are going through, but it is just a pain tolerance thing with the bone bruise. And I think it's just he's got to be able to sustain 15, 20 minutes. That's all they're really asking of him. And he's actually given Rob permission to sit out of practice, sit out of shoot arounds, do what he needs to do to get ready to play, as long as he's ready to play. And that's what they're really emphasizing right now.
People are asking what I'm drinking. I'm drinking kombucha here, guys. Someone's wondering if I was drinking like a jug of moonshine.
Oh, you got a bad rep in the chat, John. I don't know how you're going to clean it up. But
what did I
anyway.
do? Because people think I drink?
Yeah.
I don't drink.
I think you did it once. And
once I had a drink because Jimmy made me. I gave into peer pressure.
I know, right? Jimmy should be the one with the reputation. Anyway,
Jimmy's got the reputation. That's fine.
He does.
I think people think I'm a drunk just because I'm angry sometimes. And yeah, I get angry. That's fine.
I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
You know the injury better than me.
It's not that. It's not the injury. I never know. Like.
It's the adage, if you're out there, you should play well, right?
I just don't know if the injury makes him jump, like it decreases his vertical. There's a drop of alcohol and come on, guys. If the injury makes him like not jump as high, or if he's not jumping as high because each time he does it, he feels like, ah. So is he just trying to minimize pain so he feels next to none? And if so, yeah, rub some dirt on it, suck it up and go. But if it's so painful that each step, he feels something and he just knows like, this is going to hurt. Yeah. I think that's in his head, when you're going to take that step, there's going to be a little discomfort there. So you take it more gingerly because you're trying to minimize it. And if you're doing that, you're just not moving. You just can't play. You're almost cheating the whole time because you're trying to guess. You're trying not to go all out. Like this is what I always say about Rob. Rob at anything short of 100% is 50% the player that he is. Like Rob at 90% is 50% as effective. He really needs all of it because that freakish athleticism, his ability to recover, his ability to close out, his ability to help and come out of nowhere and just erase people at the rim, that only comes with the explosiveness that he has athletically. Like if he's not doing that, he's just getting chumped like all over the place. He's late. He's not getting up. He's not contesting. He's not grabbing boards. He's not closing out, and he's getting abused on the perimeter because he's just kind of has to play, 6, 7 feet off people, and he's just, there's just nothing he can do. They got to find a way. He's got to find a way to get to play through the pain and try to be explosive even in small spurts. I would rather 8 to 10 minutes of the best version of Rob than 16, 18, 20 of him trying to maintain it and stay in the game.
Yeah, and he's capable of it right now. We've seen it. Game 1, 4 blocks, the turn at the rim.
Go for as hard as you can when you go. The second you feel you're going to half-ass it, come out, But like maybe you play him in 4-minute spurts and then he just goes balls out for those 4.
Well, you suggested bringing him off the bench.
Well, I still think it. I still think it doesn't make sense to me, especially after watching Curry go off for 21. Derek White, I think, is the best person to put on Curry just based off of how he's able to fight through screens and he's so quick in his recovery. I think he's done the best job on him so far. He's more, again, no disrespect to Marcus, and this is what we said a couple of years ago. Like Curry's not the type of guy that Marcus typically matches up with. He talked about it today, how physically and mentally taxing it is because you really can't give him a sliver of daylight. It's difficult. Marcus wants to be able to get physical with people. It's a different style of guy. Curry's just zipping all over the place, and if you're not perfect on him, he's gonna make you pay. White's done a better job on Curry, I think, than Smart. I don't have numbers in front of me. I'm sure someone's gonna pull him out here and say wrong. But it feels like White has done really well
visually for sure. Yeah. And there's ways you want to use Smart. I think like starting him on a big and switching him on the guards and others in the pick and roll to try to disrupt that part of the game. I think that'd be useful. There's some defensive holdover I think that would be useful for the Celtics having those guys out on the floor together more often, I think. And
so that's the thing is, and that's what I wanted to point out is I know people say always doesn't matter who starts, it matters who plays together the most or who finishes, but you're limiting your opportunity to have your best 5 out there when you don't start them. That's why I wouldn't say obsess over starting 5s, but that's why I think a lot of people do obsess over it. And it's such a big deal because you're starting 2 halves with them and you're closing and you're probably spending the majority of the fourth quarter with this 5. So that these are really important times, like look at what's happened to them back-to-back third quarters. Are you going to roll out that Rob lineup twice and risk him not being effective and the third quarter getting away from you for a third straight game? It seems asinine. So I don't understand.
In the Miami series, they came out of halftime with Grant over
with Grant
Rob a few times.
With Grant a couple of times. So it makes and that was an adjustment because I think they rolled it out there. With Rob, it's almost like a pitcher out of the bullpen. He comes out, throws a few pitches, and you're like, he doesn't have it tonight, and you get somebody else warmed up. Like, I just don't think you have that luxury. I think you bring him in off the bench and you play single big most of the time and just kind of play a smaller lineup in there. Work Pritchard in a little bit more. I'm not terrified of Nesmith if you had to.
I don't think Pritchard's played enough.
I don't think Pritchard's played enough at all because you do need shooting. And so I would play those lineups. I would have no problem with the Grant Pritchard Rob second unit with the, 2 of the starters out there. I think that's fine.
It feels like Tice has more trust right now than Pritchard. And Ime has talked up Pritchard throughout the year. I don't think he's actually walk the walk when it comes to trusting him and putting him in positions to succeed, even with the ball handling. I mean, isn't he a guy who's capable of helping quell this turnover issue they have? You put 3 guards on the floor with Tatum and Brown being one of them. I think you have a lot more outlets for those guys to get off the ball and be fed instead of trying to do it all themselves. And this, I know we're talking defense at the start of this. The issue is the offense right now, isn't it? Like the mess of turnovers, missing guys, bad reads, bad shots, bad decision making. I mean, it's frustrating that you get to this point in the season, and this whole year's been about Brown and Tatum increasing their playmaking abilities, and you're on the pinnacle of a championship, and you're like, I don't know about these guys and their decision making and their ball handling.
Here's the thing. It can be both though. Like Tatum might be smarter and better with the ball when he moves it quickly and makes quick decisions. Tatum dribbling is not it. Like, there's a difference between being able to make plays and being a primary ball handler. And I think sometimes people conflate the two. You do not want the ball in Tatum's hands initiating the offense. Absolutely not. And you don't. You when it comes to him, you want to be able to trust him to make the right read, which is I can beat my guy quick, I can rise up and shoot, or I can make a quick play. But Tatum holding onto the ball as your primary ball handler is bad. That's bad. And I don't like when they do that. And I don't like when they run the offense through him. I do not think that they're effective doing that. I think he can be an effective playmaker, but not in that role. He moves too slow. The defense sets up, it closes in on him, and it results in deflections and things like that. It's not ideal. With Jalen, I understand it. When he's bringing the ball up, you're almost always sitting there hunting a mismatch, but Jalen is much quicker to attack it. So when he gets it, he'll go. It doesn't always turn out. With Tatum, I just don't like when they do that. I don't like when they match up hunt, and I don't like when they have him bringing the ball up. It's just not the way I'd be running the offense in the half court set.
Yeah, and I know Ime doesn't want to intervene too often, and he wants us to be free flowing, but this has been their issue all year. At their worst, it is getting stuck offensively through stagnant offense, bad decision making on the ball, and things like that. And they have the guys to alleviate it. Again, I'd go to Smart. There was a play in that game too where Brown's dribbling in the right corner. Smart sent him a screen, kind of flared out to the right corner, and Brown just didn't look to him and threw up a shot. Smart's capable, and I'm gonna use his line, like, trust him. Let the point guard run the offense.
Let him run the offense.
On the offense. It's his
I
best
can't
passer on the
stand
team.
when they cross half court and just hand it to Tatum and then go. Because for the most part, by the time he starts moving, there's just 12 seconds left on the shot clock anyway. So it just takes too long. You're right. Put the ball in Smart's hands and just run your offense. We're saying stuff that you would say to an 8th grade team. That's what's so ridiculously
This is stuff
frustrating.
we were saying when they were in the bad portion of their season. It was like, oh, why aren't guys moving? Why aren't guys getting off the ball?
Move without the ball. Don't turn it over. Don't play ISO. Don't have everybody standing around. Don't have Tatum bring it up. Play with more pace. All of that stuff. When they do it, it's so rudimentary. That's the thing. It's like, you guys know better than the Celtics. They know it. Ime says it nonstop. Like, we're better when we do this. We're bad when we don't, and they've got between that on the offense, the quick ball movement. That's the whole. I'm tired of this love and trust thing that people put out there as this badge of honor. If the Celtics aren't going to trust each other, it doesn't make any sense. It is about you throw that trust word around a lot, Bobby. It's huge. Move.
Marcus used it today.
So who is not trusting people right now? Are Brown and Tatum not trusting people and it's the ball stopping with them? Is it a trust issue, or are they putting pressure on themselves because they feel like, as the top players, I have to do things and it's got to be me? And as a result, they're forcing the issue. And again, I know Tatum had the 28 last game, and people will be like, he was actually pretty good. I thought he was awful. I didn't like anything that he did on offense. I think some shots fell.
It was the
and
opposite
that was the
of his
difference.
game one. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like
shots, and he wasn't making good decisions with the ball in his hands. And you almost wonder where he's at mentally right now. They've thrown tough defense at him. They've had Green in the lane dropping against them. They've had Green on the ball against them.
Yeah.
And they've been unpredictable. And that's where I think some of the bad decision making comes into play, is that the Warriors have thrown a bunch of different looks at them, some zones, some box and ones. And you hear Tatum talking today and throughout the series really about the expectations laid upon him. And he almost seems frustrated by the reactions to his games. Like game one, he didn't score enough. So is he looking in game two to be more of a scorer and set the tone with the ball in his hands, putting it in the net, rather than doing what I thought was perfectly fine in game one? I didn't think there should have been a single criticism of his game one. That was perfect.
Who?
3 for 17, Tatum. You win.
No, it's not. It's not
13
perfect.
assists.
It's not perfect. He missed a ton of open shots. So it's not
Yeah, I
perfect.
mean, but that happens. His approach was right. So do you change the approach in game two because everyone's looking saying,
I will agree. Yes, you're right. Because even in game two, some shots fell, but some of those were contested threes. And then the rest of the time, he just spent he spent foul hunting. He just too many times going to the basket with really taking a shot. The degree of difficulty was so high that really all you could hope for was a whistle. I didn't like a lot of that stuff. So
It's
yeah,
funny,
I
him and
will
Brad.
agree. The approach was better. You'll take the approach over, stats that end up being meaningless because you can't. I mean, he was there's a reason he was a game high -36. The offense was awful when he was out there. Awful. They were awful. I mean, defensively, nobody was
And
playing
I
really
said
well in that
coming
third
into the
quarter.
series, I was like, "Oh, I don't think the transition game's gonna hurt you as much." Well, it did. They got
Yeah.
absolutely crushed in transition off those bad offensive sets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
you gotta control the ball. It's 4 rounds of this. I don't think it was an issue against Brooklyn, but Milwaukee,
it
they're at their
was.
worst when they
It
control.
absolutely was against Brooklyn.
Yeah, every round now. They've been at their worst when they haven't
They
controlled the
escaped
ball, when
game
they haven't
one
run
with
the
it, but
offense.
yeah, it's the same thing. And Ime cited it today. 13. The magic number is 15. 13-2 when it's fewer than 15, and 0-5 when it's 16 or more. That's it. It's that easy.
It's not rocket science, Tatum said today, and again, he's at the point of attack with it. I don't. Why do you think they keep falling into it? Because it's obvious how emphasized and important it's become. They know it. Everyone knows. I guess the other teams are turning up the heat, knowing that they can exploit it. I asked Kevin Looney about that today. Like, is rushing this team part of the game plan? He's like, definitely. Peyton's trying to be disruptive out there.
You can see
Teams
it.
know that they can pressure them.
It's aggressive doubling right at the point of attack. As soon as Tatum starts going, they run somebody at him quick, and you saw a lot of it, a lot of pinching there. Every time he tried to go to the lane. And first of all, I mean, when you put your head down and just dribble to the right, everyone knows what's coming. He's got to vary that a little bit, okay? All he does is he either pulls up or from the left side, he just buries his shoulder and tries to go, dribble hard to the right into the lane and see what happens. And they were coming. They were bringing a second defender as soon as he put the ball down to make him make a decision at an awkward point before he got too deep in the paint and before he had any chance to rise up. And he didn't suffer, and he suffered for it. He
We
didn't.
talked about that too. Play
Yeah,
closer to the basket. You're floating, you're gonna get swallowed up out there.
always. As soon as he starts moving, he gets swallowed up. They were really good at doing that last game, and that was a problem. So Tatum's got a problem with Tatum is he has these slow start first quarters, and we kill him for it, where he is trying to feel out what the offense is giving him. I think you have to live with that in this series. I think you have to live with that. I think Tatum trying to force the issue, or if there are shots there, take your shots. Shoot or shoot. It doesn't matter, even if they're not going in. But he really can't force the issue. He has to look for it. He has to be aggressive, be decisive. If it's not there, he's just got to move it. You're playing into
Yeah,
their hands. They
they
know
won
what you're
3
about to do.
rounds.
Yeah.
They won 3 rounds with him playing pretty poorly in the first quarters. So it works, as long as he's making plays and getting guys involved. I mean, Horford didn't shoot until the third quarter
At all.
after a 26-point game.
Marcus didn't shoot. Horford didn't shoot. Obviously, Rob doesn't much, but I mean, guys who you're expecting.
But they miss Rob again, and we talk about this all the time.
No.
Like, that's part of the facilitating too, is finding guys in their spots and getting other guys going. It's not just about getting yourself going and getting the ball back and producing shots for yourself. It's getting these other guys involved, and that was why I thought he was so great in game one. You produce these amazing efforts from Smart, White, Horford, and
Yeah.
that wins you the game.
So off this comment here, I'll ask, and again, it's up on the screen. What do you do? Do you switch that starting lineup or not?
I think I'm with you.
Yeah.
I would.
And it's weird.
Tough, it's risky, but you got to do it sooner rather than later.
The trickle down is not terrible because if
you still get to play Rob.
Because you're playing Rob in place of Al, and then you're also, you're gonna leave a couple. You're gonna leave, when you bring in Pritchard, and when you bring in Grant, you're still gonna leave Tatum and Smart, Tatum and White out there. So there's going to be someone else there as well. You're probably going to have Tatum and Tatum's a combination of either Tatum or Brown or Smart or White playing with those lineups. You can live with a few minutes of a Rob, Grant, Pritchard, Tatum, Smart lineup. That's fine. That's not going to kill you. And that's really what you're going to get there. And you have that 8-man rotation. And I think you only use Tice if you see Rob is you can't get up and down the court, and that's really it. And I think you just play single big all game with Grant sometimes in there as a, you can even do a real small ball lineup when Looney's out and just have Grant as your 5 as well, and play Tatum with Brown, White, and Smart, or put Pritchard in that lineup too, so you have shooting. I think those are playable lineups in this series.
Yeah, I think the hesitancy probably goes back to, can you play Pritchard as a strictly backup one? And
I think you're always playing Pritchard with Smart or White out there for the most part. I don't think you're letting him run and initiate the offense.
Yeah, so it comes down to how long can Smart extend. Looking at Smart's minutes in the first 2 games, he goes 29 in game 1, and in game 2, albeit without a fourth quarter, he goes 25. So is he in position to push toward 40? I don't know. This is the tough part of the series. You have 2 hurt guys, and they can play, so you're not going to look back if they lose and say, "Oh, the Celtics were injured here." But it does limit what you can do.
Once again, I watched Smart walking around today, leaving the court, still a limp,
Yeah, he's hurt bad. He's
still
just playing
there
through it. And again, this is what I think you look
just
at Rob and you
walking,
say,
just
"Look at
walking a noticeable limp." I mean, I still see it. You could there's a hitch in his step.
He was out of it in game 2. Yeah. So you're riding some up and downs there, which is tough. Those are 2 crucial guys for your team in Smart and Rob, especially defensively. And you're going to have to find other ways to make it work. One thing I do like about starting White, you do worry that you hurt Rob's confidence a little going to the bench, but it is what it is. He's already a percentage below what he is anyway out there. You might get a boost in White by getting him looks early, getting him rolling toward the basket, finding him. Maybe he gets a boost from playing with the other starters and having less defensive attention. He talked after game 1 about knowing how the Warriors were going to guard him and knowing how to exploit it, just how far they were going to play off of him. So I love the idea of making him a bigger piece of this puzzle here. With him, it seems like confidence is a big thing with him. Like, he's got to get going. He's got to see that ball go in the net. He's got to feel good. He's got to feel empowered and not feel like he's just along for the ride here, like off and on the court. There's
no, I like it.
Talk about that. And isn't he a different guy when he gets going? Like, he's just awesome.
I didn't mind him last game. I thought he missed good shots going to the basket. Those little floaters and those mid-range in the lane. I think he got where he wanted to go. I thought he was fine. I know the final splits at 4 of 13 were fine. A couple of those things rimmed out. I thought he actually played an overall good game, and I liked what he did on offense.
Especially the stuff on Steph. Yeah.
I liked what he did on offense, and I love him on Steph. If your favorite and mine, Mirren Fader, wrote a profile on Derek White today for Ringer. Mirren is a guest of Bobby Manning's Dome Theory podcast. She's also she's been on A-List with Sherrod and a guest speaker at my class at Emerson. They loved her. They loved Mirren. So check out her work over there at the Ringer for a good profile on Derek White. We're going to get into the Draymond Green, Maxwell stuff, which was fun and interesting and lively. And who knew that what Cedric said was going to spin off into whatever it became. This big story that Draymond Green addressed. First off, I do want to tell people, and again, I'm saying in advance for those of you who have supported or will support or are considering supporting our sponsors, please do. It means the world to us. If this is the type of thing that you think you'd be interested in, check it out. All of us did. HelloFresh and multiple members of the Garden Report, myself, Sherrod, signed up for it. I ate it tonight, and I'm not lying about that. So this is great stuff for those who haven't tried it. Restaurant quality meals delivered right to your doorstep. HelloFresh, one of the Garden Report sponsors throughout the playoffs here. So again, just check it out. It's much cheaper than dining at a restaurant, but you're getting restaurant quality food. Prepackaged, prepared, sent to you, and all you've got to do is cook it. It cuts all of the time. It cuts the shopping. It cuts searching for the recipes online or whatever.
And running back, like you said, sometimes you're just missing that one thing.
I always are missing one thing, and I'm always heading out. So it does all of it. It's all there for you. It knows how to diversify your dinner menu, seasonal recipes, great spring, and now we're entering summer recipes, cool stuff like sweet heat shrimp tempura bowls, garden spinach ricotta ravioli, which is what I had tonight, one pot creamy lemon dill chicken soup. Really, really, really good stuff. You can get stuff from the market, lemon ricotta pancakes, French macarons, really good stuff. So check that out. It really is terrific.
Super fresh. Like the name, right? It's fresh meat.
Fresh meat. I didn't cook a
ice.
couple of things and I froze it because it's really good, high quality meat that they send to you. I ended up not making that meatloaf that you guys made, but please check it out. Go to HelloFresh.com/playoff16. Use the code playoff16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Once again, HelloFresh.com/playoff16. Why 16, Bobby?
16 wins for the title.
16 wins for the title. And we have 13? How many left? 13. Even Jimmy Toscano could do this math.
Well, you got to think it out. If you just asked me on the fly, I wasn't thinking about it. I already started thinking about when the number popped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one episode where that you were like 7, 8, 9. I don't know what they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, we got it was my fault. I messed up the first one. Anyway, guys, please check it out. Please support our sponsors. HelloFresh.com/playoff16. Please use this promo code playoff16. Go to use this URL and this promo code if you are going to check out the HelloFresh thing. At least if you're not going to do it, please do us a favor. Just check the website and do the research for yourself. And see whether or not it's something that suits you. But yeah, please go check that out if you can. Now, we did want to get into the Draymond Green stuff, which I thought was super interesting. And Cedric Maxwell, as we know, we're going to play both the clips.
This is one of the funniest videos of all time.
Cedric Maxwell and Gary Payton, Sr., the glove, they get together and they just start talking. And it is just unfiltered. If you haven't checked this out, it's got a zillion views on our YouTube channel. Go watch the whole video. It's freaking phenomenal.
E40 comes out of nowhere. Gary Payton Jr. is coming like it's like a tornado.
So good. And I'm hoping we get those guys to do something like that again for us. But check it out on our YouTube channel. It's so funny. But this thing that Max said, again, we're talking about Draymond Green and his antics specifically in game 2, the stuff he got away with. Specifically, the stuff involving Jaylen Brown, where he didn't get that second technical, which Bobby and I 1,000% in agreement. Doesn't matter what the circumstance was, he should have. But beyond that, Cedric Maxwell believes some form of frontier justice was due here for Draymond Green. And here's what he had to say to Gary Payton. Check it out.
Let me just say this to you, and I'm going to be as clear as I can. That shit, wait a minute, hold on. That shit Draymond Green was doing during the 80s, he got knocked the out.
See, but that's a whole difference. That's a difference in our basketball. Yeah. Our basketball is different.
This has been up like, hold on.
I saw what Cedric Maxwell said. And, you know, one thing that baffles me about the 80s or the 90s or whatever you want to call when basketball was so much more physical is some of the guys that be talking weren't the guys that was punching people. You know, like they act like, you know, guys was just walking around the court like I'm hitting this guy in the nose. There were a few guys back then that would lay you out, that would knock you out, that would foul you and get thrown out the game. Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn. But everybody running around acting like they were that. Y'all were getting bullied. And so it baffles me when every guy, just because they played in the 80s, just because they played in the 90s, is like, man, if you played in our day, you get knocked out. Like, no, not really, because it wouldn't be you.
So I'm not. Go on mute, John.
Let me tell you one thing, because everyone flipped out about this Draymond thing, like, oh, he's right. No, he's not right. He's literally saying exactly what Cedric said, but he's saying it in a way that he thinks is clever, and it's not. Cedric Maxwell and people and Gary Payton are not saying they would knock you out. They're saying, in my day, if I did what you're doing now, someone like Rick Mahorn would have punched me in the mouth. I don't know how Draymond doesn't get it. I don't know how everybody who was like, oh, he's so right. No, that's exactly what Max is saying. You, Draymond, unless you're ready to throw down, wouldn't do that. It's the same thing like in hockey. If the other team doesn't have an enforcer, you take liberties. But when somebody's sitting there on the bench and oh, if I take a shot at one of their stars, this guy's going to beat the out of me, you don't do it. That's why every time Wayne Gretzky was traded, Marty McSorley went with him. He was there to protect the franchise. So the absence of these guys in today's NBA is one of the reasons a guy like Draymond gets to, pull people, try to pants people,
I think Perk made the last enforcing move, decking Jay Crowder in that series in 2015. That was the last one in NBA history. Yeah, I mean, the point that was valid was the fine, the suspension stuff. I mean, they legislated out of the game.
I'm not going to lie, Bobby. I don't like back in my day stuff, but all Cedric was saying is if you're going to be that guy, you got to be able to back it up.
And this is why I don't like
so there's people who I used to play with who would not have tolerated that. That's not saying we were great at basketball and you guys aren't. That's literally saying, like, we watched those frigging Knicks, Pistons, 90s. Oh, my God. Those guys were frigging – they would kill you. I mean, those Davis and frigging Oakley. Oh, my, Anthony Mason. Those guys were
But we know the difference. Yeah, we know the difference. In terms
that is rough stuff. And if you wanted to be that guy, you better be about that, And if you're not, you wouldn't be yapping as much as Draymond yaps and taking liberties because somebody would step to you and it would be a problem. And that's what Max was saying. And Draymond saying, well, you're soft. No, wrong. Wrong answer. But anyway, the bigger question is what happens with Draymond, both in terms of whether the Celtics – well, did you want to respond to Draymond's comments?
You don't – yeah, this is why I thought the way the refs handled it was so unacceptable because you can't respond. There's no way for the Celtics to answer what he was doing. He can say, get tough. You're going to get technicals on your own end. You're going to get thrown out of the game in your own end. This is why Al, Grant, those guys couldn't do anything about it. Jalen went as far as you possibly could, I think, in terms of responding to it. So it's on the refs to stop it. And they basically gave him a free pass to do anything he wanted all game. And it put the Celtics at a huge disadvantage in terms of how they could respond and what he was able to inflict upon them. Again, I don't need fighting in the NBA. I don't need the old style stuff.
It's awful and ugly. Yeah.
So don't allow Green to do what he's doing.
That's the point. That's the point is at the end of the day, you're going to have zero tolerance with certain players like Tatum. Here's what I don't get. Okay. Jason Tatum has gotten technicals for what? Just throwing his hands in the air.
Yeah.
Like this because you're showing up a ref. So that's a tech, but Draymond Green gets to try to pants people and kick them. No, it's disrespectful. You're either going to run a tight ship and have players behave a certain way or let it just go wild and whatever happens, happens. Nobody wants that 90s style of basketball. So the reason you're keeping it in check is, it's okay to be aggressive. It's okay to be physical. Foul people hard. Absolutely. You guys want to go and review it and see whether there was intent. Fine. I think most of these are nonsense. So, Draymond Green can play physical and push the line of physicality. He just can't be an asshole all day. You're supposed to keep people from being assholes because it raises the temperature. It instigates other things. And then you let Draymond get away with 4 things, but then what the other team's guy does one thing and they both get whacked the same. And that's just not fair. So it just either do it or don't. That you can't be making up rules as you go.
Yeah, the rule in that circumstance is a double tech, and you're
it's
out.
So
that's
easy.
Why there's a first tech.
That's why the first one, and that's why when you have a first one, you're extra careful.
Can't do it again.
It's like having 5 fouls, and again, I understand sometimes you do think like, okay, they didn't want to give him the 6th foul on that, and that comes into play too. But again, it's almost a mentality of having 5 fouls and thinking you can go out there and just hack away because they'll never call it on me. They don't have the balls to throw me out of this game.
What happened.
And that's what happens in this game. But with technicals, they'll never do it. So again, you're just rewriting rules for a guy and let him dictate and do whatever he wants to do. And it does have an impact on the game. So how does it work in game?
Well, first,
3?
One more thing on that. Jeff Van Gundy and Zach Lowe had an interesting exchange on Lowe's show. Lowe saying he didn't really even care too much about this discussion because it's obvious how they're going to treat Draymond. And he said, well, why doesn't Tatum respond? They're not going to throw Tatum out of the game. He thinks Tatum would get the same leeway if he clapped back. And Jeff goes, well, that's not who Tatum is. He's not going to do that. And Jeff's point, which I thought was a good one, is that the mild-mannered guys, the easygoing ones, they get killed by the way this is legislated.
Yeah.
Like, of course, Tatum's going to get leeway if he does that, but he's not going to do that. And do you really want this series to be about whether Jason or Jalen are going to confront Green and rough him up? And it's got to be basketball that's going to win the Celtics this series. And that's why I feel like the route that they're going to go is ignoring it, going past it, not getting involved. And maybe one of the role guys who's about it, like Smart, like Grant, who I was stunned Grant didn't respond and raise the temperature on that and clap back in his own way. He was pretty mild-mannered about it too. Like the whole team took a pretty ambivalent approach about it, beside Brown. And I thought Brown made the response that was necessary.
And again, and that's what bugs me too. And this stuff, you talk about trust and all of that. That's something else I'd like to see. Is
a collective attitude toward how to respond to him.
That's the point, is you don't have to be Jason Tatum, like going in there and acting like a tough guy when you're not. But and again, I'll keep using hockey because I think hockey's comparable when it comes to this sort of stuff. Yes, there's more physicality. People are asked to answer the bell and actually fight people. You're never going to compare the two sports. But what you really want is if a guy, takes a late run at your goalie or whacks at him a little bit after the whistle, you want 5 guys in on it. You want to see a response. You're usually not going to get a penalty for those sort of things, but you want to see 5 guys come together saying, I'm standing up for this guy. One of your guys gets hit, you want to see 3-4 guys go after the guy who hit him and let them know that it's not happening. So collective response, I would have loved 5 people to get up and go right at Draymond and just let him know that stuff does not fly. And that's the collective response where you now feel like everyone's got my back here, and so you do want to see it. So I do think in that regard, you want to answer it. You can't ignore it if the refs are going to ignore it.
Yeah.
You either, if the refs call it, you let him. There's 2 ways to deal with it. If the refs aren't calling it, you have to respond. If the refs are going to call it, you just instigate the crap out of him. You needle him and you tweak him and you do stuff that's going to drive him crazy and make him snap.
Point, right? Yeah. So
flip it on him. It's like Sun Tzu, Art of War. If a guy is of choleric temper, irritate him. So don't let him irritate you. Irritate him. Try to get under his skin. And I know you think that's a losing proposition with a guy like Green, but you can do it, make him snap.
The Brown situation was almost the perfect response, right? And it should have ended with Green's ejection. Brown should have gotten a tech there too. But the way that should have played out is Brown doesn't do anything to that point. He picks up a tech with his response, but Green had done so much nonsense in the first half that getting into a scuffle there and the Celtics responding as Brown did should have been the appropriate outcome to how Green was handling the game at that point. You just put the trust in the refs and they didn't cash out there. You hope that they'll pay more attention to it the next time around. But that's the point, or Zach's point rather, is that if you respond, you'll get some leeway too. And Brown obviously did that, not getting a tech in his own right. But in the first situation where Grant's getting into it with him, they gave a tech to Green and not Grant. So Grant in that spot did the right thing, kind of getting into it.
He's like, whatever, man. I'm holding my – and I'll tell you this, Grant is the perfect guy to do it because he's so annoying. His own teammates want to punch him. Imagine what people on the other team think. Grant can drive you crazy because he just yaps and yaps and yaps and yaps and yaps. He's the perfect guy to sit there. I would just have him whispering in Green's ear all friggin' day, because –
I wish he did a little more, but Green did get him good with the "you want to be me" line. That's tough to respond to.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
just because he did flip something Grant actually talked about on him. Not exactly what Grant meant or said when he was talking about that, but it was pretty good trash talk. And Green explained that today too, saying that he didn't just pull that out of midair. Grant was talking to him, and that was his response to what Grant was saying to him. This is great theater. You need a guy like Green in this
No,
series.
it's great. It's great. I say this all the time, Bobby. Villains to me make make things fun. I
Think
think
of how the Garden's going to respond to him tomorrow.
it's great. You need villains. You need them. It makes it so much better experience because it sucks having Steph as the villain on the other side because everybody loves him. He's impossible to hate. So Green has added the needed spice to this series. Maybe that wakes the Celtics up. We'll see. But whatever it is, you don't want to play into his hands. You don't want to let him get into your head, and you just got to play a ton smarter, than that. So than they did last game. You can't let him excel either. There are a lot of times they drove right at him.
Isn't that the point? He was, we're talking a lot about the antics. He was phenomenal basketball wise. Brilliant game. Everywhere defensively, high intensity. In on guys, knowing the matchups, rushing the Celtics. He played the perfect defensive game you could possibly imagine. And that's why the Celtics lost as much as it was the antics, probably more so than the antics.
Yeah.
They weren't ready for what he was going to do defensively. And, you talk about smart games. What do you do in certain screening actions, screening Green onto Tatum?
I don't get it.
Oh,
That's
terrible.
what I mean. They literally made him the primary defender on some screens. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's
why?
They're going through the motions, not even realizing what they're doing. They're like,
exactly.
oh, running a pick and roll.
You just switched to pick and roll, and you put Draymond on Jalen 30 feet from the basket. Why would you do that? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, then this is isn't it amazing this offense was number one for as long as it was at the end of the year there, because they just have so many bad habits, so many lapses, and really a lot of times they don't have a captain to the ship. There's just no one out there running things and guiding it and making it smooth. Some of that's on Ime too. I mean, Ime took this big leap this year, putting in Tatum and Brown's hands, and there's been a lot of ups and downs to it. I guess you say you get to the finals off of it, it works, but you deal with all the lumps.
It's another reason White in the starting lineup or playing more with those guys helps, because White keeps it moving.
You know what I want to see from White? When Brown's in trouble, when Tatum's in trouble, White should run right to the ball.
Go get the ball. Give it to me and go somewhere else. Yeah.
Because, the defense is playing way up. He can get it, dive right downhill. All of a sudden, there's backline options as an advantage. And this is how Ime wants to play. You hear about him all the time, playing the numbers on the back end, playing with the advantage on the second level of the action. And a lot of times the Celtics can't get there, which is frustrating.
Yep, no doubt about it. So someone had asked keys to the game. I feel like we already went over that, but obviously don't turn it over and just more movement on offense. Again, you just can't stagnate the way they did. But what else do you think is important? And again, both Bobby and I seem to advocate possibly changing up the lineup. I don't believe Ime will, but I do think they have to kind of go to that multiple guard lineup and play small more of this game, even if they end up starting to run.
Even if you don't change the lineup, you got to tweak the rotations as it goes through. There's an argument to starting off good with that double big unit and piling up the stops early. And they have started good in the second game at this point. I thought there was a really strong start to that game. The first game was just completely screwing up the Curry assignment, which is still kind of unbelievable that they did that. But as far as keys here, I think you still got to stay attached to all of these guys defensively, and you have played good defense for the brunt of the series. I think you've taken Poole out of the series, made it really tough to play him. You've taken Clay out of the series. He's just been a non-factor. You've made it tough, I think, to play Gary Payton and some of these other guys who are non-shooters just based off the way you play defense. I think you've effectively guarded the Warriors for the brunt of the series so far. So you got to continue doing that and not let the offense disrupt that, because I thought a lot of what blew the Celtics up in the third there was their offense frustrating Tatum, Brown, and those guys not getting back and setting the defense and sticking to what is going to win them this series. I think that defense, I stack up all the things in this series, like everything about both teams, and I still think by a hair the Celtics defense is better than Golden State's shooting.
That was one of the questions we asked in our preview show. What's the bigger,
and I think that's proven right.
The Celtics defense is more impressive than Golden State's offense. So which means all the Celtics need to do is just not puke all over themselves on offense. I mean, this was, again, Golden State's a different team, but this was the recipe against Milwaukee and Miami was play okay on offense and your defense, and you'll win because of your defense. I think it's roughly the same formula here. You just can't turn the ball over. You just have to try to get quality shots, and that's it. Just can't turn the ball over. And if they don't, they'll probably win. Even if you're gonna lose some battles to Steph. You're gonna get beat on some backdoors. I understand sometimes there'll be offensive rebounds too when everybody's scrambling around trying to defend the perimeter and people aren't set under the basket. They're gonna get beat on some of those. That's gonna happen. You're gonna have to take some of those lumps, but your defense is keeping you in it no matter what.
Yeah, and the other key is Tatum. How many times have we said this year he just needs to play better?
You're still looking at Golden State going off and scoring 107. That's it. Okay?
Yeah, your half-court defense is incredible. All 33.
They went off and scored 107. And
33 of that's in transition.
And 108 the previous, and they're scoring a ton of that off of turnovers. So your half court is going to be able to defend this team, even though they're going to get you from time to time. They're a good team. That's going to happen. But they are not running you off the court by any means. It happens in waves and little blitzes, but it's not going to happen sustained for a game. You beat this team just by keeping your composure. And
those waves are all Curry. No one else has hurt you, have they?
Yeah, every once in a while, Poole knocked down a big one where they got it down to 6 last game, and what's his name? Porter as well. They're getting a couple. I am worried that Clay isn't being defended well. He's just shooting poorly, and that one of these days you get a Clay game. And when that happens, that's going to be annoying because right now you're counting on it not being a thing.
I don't know, though. The other series, weren't you waiting for Grayson Allen to get going?
But Clay's a different animal. And Clay's had a decent playoffs, and he's had a few games each series where he's kind of,
He's the guy I look at most and say it's not the same Warriors. It's not the same Clay.
It's not.
I think you can completely contain him for the entire series, and they have so far. And I agree with you. He's gotten open looks, but they've been mid-rangers. He's got to get into that free throw line area, it feels like, to get his confidence, which just isn't the guy he was in the past.
Yep.
He can't beat you off the dribble. I remember one play, White really locked down Curry, and Curry had a dump to Clay, and Clay tried getting downhill and just whipped it out of bounds. Yep. He's completely out of.
He isn't, but he had a layup on a bat on a kind of over aggressive closeout by Jaylen Brown. He just let him walk right by. He actually had 2 of those during that stretch, which was pretty annoying. They overplayed him a little bit, and that's always a risk there when you're flying out at the shooters like you have to against Golden State. But anyway, it should be interesting. We wanted to fill some time and talk to you about. The game before tomorrow. We'll have a full house at the Garden. Bobby's there. I'm there. Joe Sway's there. Sherrod is there. So we will be, bringing you a lot of live coverage. So make sure, again, check out CLNS Media for everything Bobby Manning is publishing on the game. Check out our YouTube channels. An insane array, just barrage of content on a daily basis, from the interviews, segments on the court, podcasts, a ton of stuff. Almost all of our podcasts in our network right now are going daily, so you can get Cedric Maxwell, Sherrod Blakely, Brian Robb, Celtics Beat. Bobby did a live Dome Theory today, I believe. Joe Sway. All of these guys are putting out content, so just tons and tons and tons of basketball stuff. The conversation continues always on CLNS Media, so you can always find what you're looking for. But that's it. We're going. Last game I went to, buzzer beater.
9 o'clock tomorrow, isn't that 9:07 tip off? We're gonna.
I'm taking a nap at halftime. You guys might have to tell me what happened at No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, it's great. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, the crowd's gonna be insane. The atmosphere in there is gonna be ridiculous. Golden State, I don't know. I always heard it, and it's not Oracle.
Did it feel front running?
The atmosphere there was a little casual. I felt like. It wasn't the overwhelming crowd that I thought.
Because they've tasted victory. When you do, the hunger isn't there as much.
I thought Milwaukee had the best crowd I've seen in the playoffs.
I like Milwaukee. We could tell by I like Milwaukee.
They were a raucous crowd. But you know what's funny about the opposing crowds, and I've noticed this in every series, The Celtics have these crowds nervous. The way they stick around, the way they pile up
Yeah.
stops and get teams cold, you can hear these fans like, "Oh my god, like how'd we miss 5 shots in a row?"
Game 1, they were really like, wait a second, they just came back. Every run Golden State had, the Celtics could answer, and you could tell they were perplexed.
Yeah, these crowds are like on the edge of their seat over how the Celtics are playing their teams. And then of course Brooklyn round 1. That's oh man, nothing. It was like TD Garden South.
Yeah. Want to tell everybody again, one more time, please check out HelloFresh if you're interested in restaurant quality meals, ingredients, farm fresh ingredients delivered right to your door, customizable menus, seasonal menus for whatever it is that you're interested in. Types of meal plans, vegetarian, Mediterranean, whatever it is that you want, you can customize your meal plan. If you're interested in doing this, you don't have time to grocery shop, you don't want to spend zillions of dollars. Restaurants are so freaking expensive now. You're talking about saving 72% over a restaurant meal. Here, delivered to your door, eat it at home, easy on you. HelloFresh.com/playoff16. Please go there, check out the website, use that URL, HelloFresh.com, playoff16. Use the code playoff16, up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Please help us here at CLNS Media by supporting our sponsors. It allows us to keep bringing this content to you. So if this is something you're interested in, at least check out the website, see whether or not this meal plan is right for you. We've all tried it. We like it. And as we said, Sherrod, myself, and at least one other member of the Garden Report signed up for the plan independently off of this. We hope you guys do as well. But that's all we have to say about that. Bobby, what are you feeling tomorrow if you had to give a prediction?
Oh, I think the Celtics bounce back. What are they, 7-0 now after losses this postseason?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Make it 8. I think that the things that went wrong in game 1 aren't hard to fix when it comes to ball control, making the right reads, not playing in traffic. And this team's been finishing its shots at a pretty high rate. We've talked about the defense and what it's doing right now. The energy is going to be insane. I really like a big Celtics win in game 3, a big response. And they're mad. You can just tell the green stuff irked them. And they're going to come firing back in a big way. You're going?
Huh?
You're going to the game?
I am.
Yes.
As media.
On the floor.
I'm on the floor. I'm hanging out.
Can't wait. Looks like we got a special guest.
I mean, he's killing me here, Nick, because we're trying to sign off, my man.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. This is.
Want to give us your thought on tomorrow, Nick?
Don't you hear me saying goodbye?
We're gonna put a.
I just got home. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Help us put a bow on it, Nick.
Putting a bow on it. I didn't know what you were. I just logged in. I know you wanted to talk about what happened with Draymond today. I don't have much to say other than it was funny. He's charismatic. He's funny, but he's incorrect. And it's easily just search NBA fights. He's in the first 3 videos on there. Max's. So,
yeah, but that's not the point, Nick. The point is Draymond missed. No, Draymond missed the point of what Max said.
Oh yes, I saw.
Because the point was a guy like you would not necessarily punched by me or Gary. There's people we played with that would have knocked you out. We're not saying it's not.
No, he wasn't
the people
saying.
who are saying it's tough. Like it's saying like, oh, I grew up in a tough neighborhood. Doesn't mean I was a tough guy. It means there's people around here that were tough. That's what he's saying. Around here, you wouldn't survive 10 seconds doing what we did. That's what he said.
What he was saying, and now it turned into all this. But the truth of the matter is, I'm trying to sit very tall. I can see John doing it as well. Truth is that he was tough, though, and that everybody is coming to his defense on one side. The other side, obviously, for Draymond, listen. I love this stuff. This is great.
Right. For entertainment purposes, we'll play it one more time since Nick arrived. Okay.
Oh no! Don't play it again. No volume.
Oh, no audio. You can lip read because there was a lot of bleeps in there too.
You're not getting the audio on that?
No.
We bleeped it, right?
Yeah.
I did. There's no audio?
No audio on it.
No audio.
What?
Listen. That's just classic stuff, man. That's behind the scenes, John. You and I were talking about it earlier. It's just behind the scenes fun stuff. You don't get that at NBA games, usually on the national networks. But Max said something important. It's more about the players than it is him. Like, get him out of the news cycle. But I'm saying, dude, Draymond, keep focusing on Cedric Maxwell. Don't focus on the Celtics. Let the Celtics come out and jump right into that and take care of them tomorrow night. And I think they will anyway. So This is all the fun of the finals, right, John?
Like I said, I love, me, Nick. I love villains. Without them, it's boring as hell. So we love playing the Nets because there's villains on the other side. You love to hate them. The Bucks less so, because we liked Giannis. There's people you can get annoyed with.
And you know what the difference is this time around? Because you could go back to Kyrie round 1. I think he's actually irking the Celtics. I don't think that the Kyrie thing actually affected the players on the floor at all.
Kyrie's trying to convince himself of everything he says. Draymond actually, I agree with you, Bobby. Draymond got under their skin.
Jalen did not let. You could tell post game, Jalen was really mad about what Draymond was doing out there, and thinks that the Celtics should respond.
Listen, I know that Max didn't want them to punch each other and whatnot and get into fist fights, but I think the point is taken that Jalen, it was okay to instigate him a little more to maybe get a tech out of him. You know what I'm saying? A second tech, because Draymond was pushing, blatantly setting moving screens. It was like things I haven't seen in.
What's decades. Funny is if Jalen took a swipe at him, they would have both gotten techs. And what's funny is if Jalen escalated, they would have both gotten a tech.
That's what Max was saying.
Jalen's was more muted. If Jalen went at him, Green would have had no choice but to grab. They would have both gotten techs there. No question about it.
That is the point as well.
You had him on the ropes there. You actually you had to finish him. Yeah,
that's the point. And I think that hopefully they're saying that, because that would have been the strategy. Like, Jalen's got to be in his head to be able to instigate him, not fist fight him, but instigate him a little bit. He got
fist fight
by him, for crying out loud. It was like Ron Hart testing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a line you can't, and this is what I thought was so ridiculous about the officiating, Nick. There's a line you can't cross now, and the players know it, and there's only so much you can do as the Celtics to respond. The refs have to handle it, and they didn't.
No, they didn't, and they weren't consistent. That's the biggest thing. It's the consistency, but the inconsistency with officiating. The other thing is that Draymond said was interesting. They only got $10,000 fines. Well, everything's relative, Draymond. They were making about $72 billion less than you a year. So $10,000 was a lot of money back then, So there was that part too, where I was like, this just sounds
What was Max's punishment for going in the crowd?
Nothing. Really? He didn't even get a foul.
That's what he said. He said they got $2 fines.
He's on fire. If there's nothing less, he's like really holding up the trash talking in all series so far. It's playoffs, and he's been pretty LeBron, like radio silent on Twitter, not saying too much. He's just blasting them on TV. It's been great.
Good for Max. Nick, thanks, we've been going over an hour. We'd hate to boot you. We are going to wrap it.
I'm going to drop out now, John. All right.
No. Hang till the end. We'll say goodbye. It's a rare treat for
right. I'm thrilled to be here. That's
for them to get Nick on the show. Nick might pop in tomorrow too, while the rest of us set up at the Garden. So you might get six. You might get up to 6 people on the Garden Report. Bear with us if you can.
I'll back out early.
But we feel good about it, Nick. You're feeling a win tomorrow?
I am. I cannot wait to see TD Garden, the crowd. I'm actually going to go down there early just to kind of take in what it's like outside the Garden. I want to see it. I'm going to experience it. And I know since last Thursday, the city, businesses everywhere have their Celtics flags out. It's really fun. So I see a win, yeah. And I think Draymond, the dude can handle pressure. We know that. But I think that TD Garden, we've seen them going back to Boston Garden, ruin careers. So he's going to get an epic wasting tomorrow, I hope.
Draymond, I think Draymond is more equipped to be able to handle this stuff than the Celtics are to respond to it. So I do think the best thing they do, this is what he does. It's what he does for a living. You don't want to get into this contest with him. You just have to stand your ground and let the refs handle the rest, but don't let them get in your head.
I don't think this has been talked about enough either, because I think everyone nationally, and I'm sure even some people locally, are just caught up in the Warriors allure. I thought it was so telling that he had to go there They were in trouble early. The Celtics were rolling, producing good shots, and all of a sudden you just see him put his chest into Tatum, and you're like,
I
all
think
right,
at one
they're
point during the
going
series,
there.
Bobby, he was going there anyway. It was gonna happen.
Well, he knew he needed to because
He
they were
needed
in
it early.
trouble. On their
You're
own
right.
home court, they lose game 1
Well,
in
whatever,
embarrassing
it worked, and the
fashion.
Celtics shouldn't have allowed it to happen.
No,
but
I agree with John.
they got-
But my point is, John,
Yeah.
the Celtics are the better team. I've said it from the start.
and that's what I
series.
think too. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
This isn't the Warriors. You should win this series. You can't get caught in the mud because that's where the Warriors are going to try to take it. Surprisingly, because we all think of them as this finesse team.
It may sound weird, but like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I would take, if I had to pick today, I would pick Jason Tatum or Paul Pierce for my team. Jason Tatum is better in every way, shape, or form at this point in his career, I think. But Paul Pierce's heart and his clutch ability and his ability to lead towards the end of his career, latter parts of his career, I take him because you can't replace that.
Never mind Pierce.
Wait a minute, I'm getting to my point. This is the time Jason can overcome the people behind him, and those are big shoes.
All right,
he can overcome
for the sake of this series,
by taking the lead.
I agree. We have to wrap it. I promised my daughter I'd play cards with her before she goes to bed.
Tell her I didn't mean to ruin it on her.
No. It's fine. Go ahead, Bobby. Close your thought.
My last point was Tatum's better than Curry right now, too.
Oh, yeah.
First team All-NBA, Curry second. Like, that's another thing you have to look at in this
series.
Just got to play better.
Beat Tatum, okay?
Yeah. Beat Tatum every game.
And no more of this, okay?
Every time I've had it with this, too.
If it hurts, sit out. I don't want to see it anymore. I mean, you're never supposed to show weakness. Stop.
That's what Max was saying. Like,
enough. Stop.
Yeah, great way to
just keep it together, guys.
This is such a big moment for him. Huge
just
moment.
Stop all of that stuff. Stop. You're fueling them. But he's in his head. He's not going to do it. Don't. Stop.
Just get
please.
Up and do it.
Even if it hurts, stop.
You did in game 1.
Okay.
If it hurts, don't show it.
Don't show it. Just have it hurt. Okay.
Yes, and fight through it.
Fight through it. Anyway,
I'm out.
Let's wrap it, guys. Thank you, everybody, again. Check us out over CLNS YouTube. If you're just jumping in here for the first time, you haven't subscribed. We are live all the time. We go live after every game. We do it. We've been doing it for years, and we continue on here through the finals. We're going to continue live every night, game night or not game night, bringing a garden report throughout the rest of the finals here, so you can always find us. But you want to follow us on Twitter, go ahead. There's our handles on the screen. Beyond that, Celtics CLNS Twitter, check that out. Check out our YouTube channels, CLNS Media or Celtics All Access. A ton of NBA content. You can find it on those. So go check it out. Game 3 at the Garden, Wednesday night. We'll be right back here after the game, hanging out, talking shop for a long, long time. So please join the stream. Tell your friends about it too. More the merrier. That's it. Good night, guys.